counted to 33 times.
You were live.
times.
All right.
We're live.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susan. This is Theo. And these are the hens. So I just recently rescued 4 free-range hens, ex-free-range hens. So the really scraggly one's Squirrel. That's Squirrel. And she's been, I don't know if she's been henpecked or if she's molting or some combination of the two. Yeah, she's in a bit of a poor state. But all the feathers that are growing back on her back are new. So when we got her a fortnight ago, she was completely bald on the back. This one here is Cat. She's the smallest one. And she's also completely bald on her back. So she's, yeah, they've definitely had some stress in the farm system. And then, who else have we got? This one over here is, do you want to give us some corn maybe? That one over there, she's Scallywag. She's in the best condition actually. She's got the least damage. And I think she's the dominant one. And then up at the top, we've got here. Shall I show you the final hen? So up at the top, this is Freya, and she's dirt bathing at the moment. So, oh, I don't know if she wants corn thrown at her. So they, oh look, she's that. So that's what they do. They kind of peck around. They scrub themselves around. They scrub themselves around in the dirt because it helps to deal with mites that they might have. So they love doing this. This is like, it's like a hen spa. Okay. Okay, so now you've met the hens. Actually, should we go down slightly? Go, and then I think there's the coop as well. Okay, so now you've met the hens. I want to talk to you a little bit about hen welfare. Basically, in the UK, there's a few different ways in which hens are commercially farmed, and they're pretty much all not very ethical, basically. So you've got, there's no longer battery cages that there once were, but you still have cage systems. Now, I've been looking at like the DEFRA guidelines. So I actually went so far as to print off the DEFRA code of practice for hen welfare for egg hens. And it's really hard to get to the bottom of because there's so many seemingly contradictory kind of regulations, basically. So for example, in a non-caged hen, you can have, this is a non-caged hen, you can have 9 hens per square meter. 9 hens per square meter is absolutely bonkers. So if you look at this, that's roughly a square meter. In a non-caged system in the UK, you would have 9 hens in that size. It's just absolutely insane. Now, but it's confusing because when it then goes on to talk about enriched cages, it says that they must have 7.5 meters per hen, but only 6 meters of that needs to be usable. So there's lots of strange contradictions, and I've got to say I don't fully understand. But from the research I have done, it would seem that you've got caged hens. That's the worst condition. They're not battery cages, but they are pretty bad. Then you've got barn hens, which is a bit better, and then but they still don't ever get to go outside. Then you've got free range hens. And you see the state these hens are in, they've come off a free-range farm. So they're not in great condition at all. I know they're partly molting, but they've also been pecked and damaged quite a lot. And that's how they've come off a free-range farm. And then you have organic hens, which get more space and more enhancements in their environment than free-range ones. And they're also free-range. So if you're going to buy eggs, you want to buy organic eggs.
And then you get backyard hens, and then which are the best.
Hens, you get 4 hens for this entire garden. Yeah. But one of the key things to think about in terms of the hen welfare, it's not just the size of space that they get, it's the social interaction that they get. So in a commercial farm in the UK, you could have up to 16,000 hens in one flock. Now, imagine if you were in a crowd of 16,000 people for your entire life. Like, you know, you can't have normal social interactions in that. They don't build relationships in the same way. And then that means that they don't develop a pecking order. So the term pecking order comes from hens, and it's probably a bit brutal, but they have a very distinct social hierarchy. But if they're in a crowd so big that they cannot develop that hierarchy, it means that bullying just goes on the whole time. So basically, these hens are still bullying each other slightly, but they've grown up in a prison. Like, they've grown up in an institutional state, and they have no normal hen socialization. So anyway, hopefully they will improve. What was I going to talk about after that? Okay, so if you're thinking about rescuing hens, I got mine from the British Hen Welfare Foundation, British Hen Welfare Trust, and they're a national charity. And you basically, if you want to get some rescue hens, you register with your details, you get all set up, which I'll come to in just a sec, and then you wait for them to go and pick up hens from a farm. And the reason that they rescue them from farms is because at about 17 months, they cull them, because they become slightly more prone to disease, slightly less productive in terms of egg laying. So they cull all the hens at 17 months old, even though the natural life cycle of a hen could be anything from 5 to 10 years. And, you know, they could keep laying eggs for a significant proportion of that time, but they cull them at 17 months. So mine are young hens, but they would have already been culled had somebody not rescued them. So that's charities like the British Hen Welfare Trust have been set up.
Do they check your setup then? Do they make any checks on what you've
some
got?
of these charities used to when they were smaller, but the scale of the operations now is such that they don't. So they ask you what setup you're going to have or what setup you have, but they don't come out and verify it. At least the British Hen Welfare Trust doesn't. Some of the very small ones might.
What are they looking for when they ask you?
They basically all they really asked me was what coop I was going to get, because I didn't even have it at the time, and I told them about this one, which is what I will now do. Okay, so can we get the whole thing in? So okay,
it's big.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this video was because, as a non-hen expert, I mean, I'm a complete novice, I was finding it a bit confusing to kind of get through the maze of information that's available, and there's so many terms used that if you've never kept hens before, you don't know, and it was really hard to navigate. So this is a kind of an idiot's guide to setting up backyard hens, basically. So the whole thing in total seems to be called a coop, right? And the coop consists of 2 parts. So this is the main part that you absolutely have to have, and this is the hen house. So I will show you my hen house. Okay, so you can lift the lid up, as you've already seen. Inside, you've got the bedding in here, and then you've got perching bars. They actually, in the wild, they would sleep on perches. So they would sleep standing on this. It's actually better for them. Having said that, most farm hens are so unused to that they actually don't know to sleep on that. So they tend to sleep lying down, which is less good for them. Less good for their bones and also their feathers and so on. But nonetheless, and you can open the door here if you want to just put them in and out. So to be honest, I actually haven't really been doing that. And then you've got the nesting box here. Okay, I'm not crazily bothered about people stealing the eggs. It's just that I need to have some way to stop foxes being able to flip this up and get their hens. So this is the nesting box. So hens should theoretically just lay their eggs in the nesting box. Now mine so far are laying the eggs in the nesting box, but they're also sleeping in it, which is not theoretically what they're meant to do, but whatever makes them happy, I suppose. So that's your nesting box, and that's external to the main house. Now, a couple of features on this particular hen house.
Did they have to get used to laying their eggs there?
No,
are they laying their eggs everywhere?
Because they've come from a free range place, they will have had access to nesting boxes, and they do lay their eggs in the nest. Mine do lay their eggs in the nesting box. They seem to have already learnt that. But I have been told that a lot of hens that are rescued off farms they're not used to nesting boxes. One of the things that's common with the commercial farming is that you would have, what was it? Something like, they have to have access? Was it something like 120? No, I can't remember the exact details, but I'm not going to do this now. If you have questions about the exact details, put comments on the YouTube video and I will answer them. But basically, a lot of the time is that even when nesting boxes are provided in a commercial setting, there are so many hens that a lot of the non-dominant hens never ever get to go into the nesting box. So even if that's what I'm saying about the importance of thinking in terms of hen welfare. Is not just what physically do they have available to them, it's how they will use it. So it's like the psychology of the hen. It's like, if you don't provide, if there's too many stresses in the environment, you don't provide enough that the less dominant hens can get to the things, they don't get the resources, and they don't get the food, they don't get the accommodation. Anyway, but a couple of things to show you that are important about this particular hen house. This is very useful. You can pull out the tray. So when you want to clean it, this whole thing, I won't do it now, but this whole thing removes. So once a week when you do your deep clean, you just literally pull it out, tip it out into the compost heap, and then hose it and disinfect it. Whereas if you didn't have the pull-out tray, you'd be ending up like a real pain in the neck to kind of clean the inside out and then wash it and then dry it, because you can't pull it out. So that's really useful about this. Another thing that's really good about this particular hen coop is the wheels. So some people call these a chicken tractor. So basically I can tip it up at the end of the run, and I can reposition the run, which means that basically when they've exhausted the grass here, I can move it onto the next patch. So that's quite handy. Now, so that's the hen house.
Is this where you used to have it? No?
Yes. So I'll come onto that in just a sec. But so the two components of the coop is the hen house, which you absolutely need to have because you need to have somewhere secure for them. Oh, don't pick that up. It's quite delicate. So you need a hen house because you need to have a secure nighttime accommodation that foxes can't get into. Now, if they're going to always be entirely free range, except at nighttime, you don't necessarily need a run. I personally think, though, that it's good to have a run because there might be times when you want to let them out the house. You need to let them out the house, but you can't, for some reason, let them out into the garden. So it means you've got a secure outside part for them. So I personally think you should have a run. And that, you know, I mean, I need a run because we have foxes, and I haven't yet got electric fencing in to secure the whole garden from the perspective of foxes.
What about cats? Are they a problem?
I've heard some people saying that they are, but I don't know. Maybe a big cat, maybe, but we haven't. There's loads of cats around here, and we haven't had any problems so far. Anyway, so this is the run. So on this coop, the standard version of this coop comes with the hen house and the run up to here. So the bit that you move it with, the bar that you end up picking it up for the chicken tractor element is there. But I bought this extension to give them more space, basically. Yeah. Now,
like for rabbits, when we got rabbits, most people have like that size down there.
Yeah.
But the advice is 8 meters of run, so we got big extensions.
Yeah. So I mean, this is, I would never keep them in this full time, but because obviously as you can see they're loose in the garden. But it just means that on occasions when I have to keep them in the coop for whatever reason, they've got more space. So I've only had these chickens 2 weeks. The first week they were here, I had the coop, the whole run there, and as you can see, that's the damage they did to the ground in 1 week. So I then, at the end of the first week, I moved it to here.
Be great if it was your veg bed and they were digging up.
Well, in all seriousness, they've been doing weeding for me in a bed that I prepared. And the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw wildflower seeds down, because I've always wanted to have wildflower seeds in my lawn, but you can't really sow wildflower seeds into pre-existing lawn because they won't get, the grass will outcompete them. But now the grass has been stripped, I can put wildflower seeds down there. So I actually managed to find a mix of wildflower seeds which only grow to they can tolerate being mown. So they'll only grow to a couple of inches high and they will still flower at a low level. So it means that I can sow wildflower seeds, but, you know, I can still mow it because practically speaking, like, you know, kids and stuff playing in the grass. I've tried doing a meadow before and it just gets ruined as soon as you walk on it. So not practical for this kind of environment. Right, okay. So I've talked to you about the coop. The other thing I would say is, I mentioned electric fences. I am actually going to invest in some electric fencing, simply because we, like most of urban Glasgow, there are foxes that come through my garden. I see them. So at the moment, I'm only letting the chickens out when someone is at home to kind of have a presence in the space to deter the foxes. The foxes come out in the day. So until I get electric fencing, unfortunately, the chickens are only out when someone's at home. So I'm going to get some form of electric fencing set up, but I need to do a bit more research on that because they're expensive and I don't want to buy the wrong one, basically.
Abby's come on.
How has she?
She says, that's not damage, that's ground prep.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what do the neighbours think?
The neighbours, no problem so far. I've only actually discussed them with my upstairs neighbours and neighbours over there, and I think they kind of think it's quite amusing. Like, I don't know. I think I'm probably more eccentric than most.
At least there isn't
my
a
neighbours.
cockerel.
No, I don't think exactly. I wouldn't get a cockerel in this kind of urban environment because it'd wake everyone up. But this is just hens. Yeah.
And because you would get chicks in the eggs.
Exactly. Also, yeah, exactly. We might end up with like an out of control chicken population if we had a cockerel. Anyway, next thing to move on to. So I've talked about the coop and the fences. Other kit that you would need to buy if you're going to do this are, if you come around here. Okay. So this is the feeder. So we can redo this now, and I'll show you. Okay. So, oh, one of the legs has fallen off. Okay. So I initially bought a cheaper, smaller version of this, and it was a waste of money. I found that out in like a couple of days. So basically, things I have learned: get a feeder with legs. If it's directly on the ground, they poo in it. It just gets muddy. You have to clean out and discard all the uneaten food, like at least once a day if you get one directly on the ground. The other thing is get one with a cover. This is a rain hat. I had one without a cover initially, without like a parasol over the food, and again, it got completely soggy and disgusting, like within like 2 hours or something. So, okay. So this is how it works. It's a gravity feeder. You put the pellets down in there.
Very yum.
And then you just keep topping it up, basically, and as they eat it, it goes out the sides. Obviously, if it gets messy and disgusting, you discard it and start again. But so far, with the rain protection, that hasn't happened. So that's a good feeder. And you know, you're talking about, it's like about £12 or something, so it wasn't like particularly expensive. But the cheap rubbish one that I got was like a £5, and it was a complete waste of money. So just buy the better one, basically.
Oro tea has come on. Susan, this is great. I was looking to get 4 hens for my back garden in Glasgow. Worried about the smells. Is it too bad?
Can you smell them?
No.
Yeah.
I can smell sawdust. So
Yeah.
that's about it. Yeah.
I can't smell them. The first few days that I had them, they stank. But I've been told that when they're more stressed and they're not eating such a great diet, that they smell more. I've also wormed them. And I think that might have improved the smell of the poo, so to speak. I mean, look, chicken poo, if you smell it, you know, if you put your face up to it, you're going to smell it. But like, no, I mean, genuinely, you can't smell them, can you, at the moment? No, not really. So, you know, I wouldn't be too worried about that. The other thing, that's another good reason to have a mobile chicken coop. I was initially going to fence off a larger section and not have it mobile, but I decided not to do that because I didn't want it always against one neighbour's fence. So I thought that if it's mobile, because I didn't know how much they would smell, I thought if it was mobile, at the most, one set of neighbours would get more of the smell for like a week or two, and then it would move across. So that's maybe something to think about, why you might want a mobile coop rather than the one that's always fixed in place. And depend on the amount of space you've got and everything. Right, what are we up to now? Right, so to show you the feeders, can I just show you some other things? So this is a water thing. Now, that is not much good. I'm hanging it now, but even it's quite low to the ground, and even being hung up, it's getting dirt in it all the time, and I'm having to like clean it out more than I'd like to have to clean it out. Let me show you the one that I then bought after, which I think is better. This. So it's like more like what you'd get for rabbits or something, and it's up off the ground. And it's hardly getting dirty at all. Obviously I'm going to change the water regularly, but I'm not having to change it 3 times a day to stop it being full of mud.
Hello, chicken.
Okay,
Kimberly says that's a lot of wear on the ground in only a couple of weeks. Do they continually need to be placed onto fresh grass?
I at the moment have decided I'm going to move them once a week. But as I said, I don't know if maybe Kimberly didn't see the beginning, but I'm going to throw down wildflower seeds into there, mowable wildflower seeds into there. So to me, I don't view this, as Abby I think said in the comment, I don't see it as damage. I see it more as an opportunity to grow something better than just pure lawn grass. So it depends. I mean, look, if you want a pristine garden, don't get chickens. But if you want a functional garden that produces food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they eat my slugs. You know, they eat the slugs. I get
you
the
know
egg
that your
shells,
eggs,
the manures for the compost. It depends what
you know where your eggs are coming from.
If a pristine garden
Mhm.
is your priority, definitely do not get chickens. But if what you want is more like a cycle of growing, then yeah, you get the manure, you get the food for yourselves. They eat your scraps. You know, when I'll just show them something else. So I recently just seeded this bed up with autumn growing seeds. And when I pulled out the old courgette plants that had finished, I let the chickens weed it for me for like a day or two before I put the seeds in.
Ooh.
And like they loved it. I just let them on it. They cleaned out all the weeds. They probably ate slug eggs.
This one's making a wee hole.
Yeah. Oops.
Sorry.
Actually, yeah. So can I now go on to feed? Because if this is like literally what you would be getting if you wanted to do this. Actually, before I tell you the feed, let me tell you about the eggs, actually, because that's probably one of the, I mean, I got these because like my daughter wanted pets and I thought this was a nice practical pet that's a good learning experience as well about how we produce food, how we are part of that cycle and how our pets can potentially be part of that cycle. But also it's, you know, it's literally just, it's good to have eggs. Every single day since we got them 2 weeks ago, bearing in mind they're not in good condition, they have produced eggs. There has been at least one egg from the 4 of them per day. Not an egg each, but they have produced at least one egg per day. But more recently, they've been producing 4 eggs a day in the last few days. So, yeah, you definitely get eggs off them. But anyway, let me tell you about what I feed them to enable them to produce these eggs. Okay, so you've got a few things here. Okay, so this is Leia's Crumble. Okay, so Leia's Crumble has been developed specially for ex-farm hens, and it's like a very fine crumble. So apparently this is most similar to what they eat on the farms. So they recommend that you start off with that because that's what they're used to. And shock to the system is not good for anyone, really. Yeah. Okay, so that's what you start them off with. Now, the recommendation is you start feeding them, mixing them over to pellets. Now, as you can see, I've used loads of them already, and mine seem to be eating it fine. But this might be because they were free range, so they were more used to picking. So that's the pellets. And I'm just kind of like, the first few days I literally just gave them the mash, or the crumble, sorry. And then I started mixing the pellets in, and that goes into the feeder that I showed you. So you just stick more on top. Okay. So,
I'm just, because they peck away at the grass as well, don't they?
They're just really nice to watch as well.
Yeah, they look quite natural. Like they're following their natural behaviour.
And so I'll show you this that Theo's just managed to lift back up. This is grit. So there's 2 types of grit here. This is oyster shells, which is a soluble grit, which is something which they need to have in their diet to be able to produce eggshells. And it's insoluble grit, which is just, you know, little stones. The reason that they need the little stones is because they don't have teeth. So the little stones go into their digestive tract and grind the food up. So it's essential that they have that.
Like Brontosaurus?
I don't know. Maybe. My dad thinks that chickens are basically Tyrannosaurus Rexes, which I think is probably true, kind of, in a tiny way. So yeah, so I've been putting that. I'll just show you where I've been putting this. So initially I put it in a dish. The dish was just getting filled with water. So I've just attached a sieve. So obviously it stays dry and they can peck at that.
We've got quite a few more questions. Do you want to take them now or at the end?
Can I show the rest of the food?
Sure,
and then I'll try questions if we've got time. If I can't answer the questions now, I will research them and answer them properly, which might be better anyway. But to continue with the food, mixed corn. So this is what Theo was giving them a bit of before. So it's just grains. So and this is, you would feed them this on the evening, partly because it encourages them to go back into the coop because they like it, but also apparently digesting this grain keeps them warm overnight. So basically you've got the pellets, which are very protein heavy, and that gives them the nutrients they need to be able to, you know, stay healthy, replenish their cells, produce eggs. And then you give them the corn, which is a bit sort of fattening, a bit conditioning, and helps them to stay warm overnight, apparently. So in addition to that, a few other things that I have been given them. Now, I was a bit unclear about worming. There seem to be loads of ways to worm chickens, and I've kind of gone, because I've just got them and I don't know if they have worms or not, I've just gone for sort of cover all bases, which may be complete overkill, but I figured for the first instance it's probably a good thing. So I ended up buying, initially I bought this liquid wormer. So it's like a herbal one, and it's meant to be less harsh than the purely like synthesized chemical versions. And you're meant to put it into their water. The problem was, it doesn't really tell you, it tells you how much to add to the water per hen, but it doesn't tell you in what amount of water. And I don't know how much water they're drinking per day, because I was having to change the whole time because it was getting full of mud. So if you know more what your hens do, I'm sure that's fine. But because I don't know what my hens do and I don't know how much water they're drinking, I wasn't sure with that. So I ended up buying the pellet version. And it's just a tiny amount, and you give them 1 scoop of that per hen per day. And if you scatter it right on the top of the feed, when they go to eat the feed, I figure that's the first thing they're going to eat. So I felt just more reassured that they would actually have that. A couple of other things that I'm doing in terms of worms: apple cider vinegar, because what hippie doesn't want to feed their chickens organic apple cider vinegar? Apparently that helps with worms as well, but also apparently it's just very good conditioning, and I figured they need all the help they can get with that at the moment. So apple cider vinegar, I've now invested in that amount of the damster. And then this is another thing. This is something else that is probably quite good to get. This is, I always pronounce it wrongly, diatomaceous earth.
Oh yeah.
Now some people use this to kill slugs, but I don't need to do that because the chickens are going to eat the slugs. So diatomaceous earth has a few uses. It kills mites. So mites would apparently live in the coop more than on the chicken themselves. So you can scatter it in the coop. Now there's a bit of controversy because some people say this is dangerous to breathe in. From my research, my understanding is that if you buy human food grade diatomaceous earth, it doesn't contain, or it contains very, very, very minimal amounts of silica, and it's the silica which is dangerous to breathe in. So if you have the food grade one, from my understanding, it should be okay. Having said that, the advice is not to go near it if you have breathing difficulties, and for humans to wear a mask when they're handling it. But then that kind of then means that you'd have to wear a mask every time you went in the hen house.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I would say if you want to use it, use your own judgment. But personally, I have been putting it intermittently around the coop, at least to start with, again, because I don't know if they have mites, if they are discarding mites into the coop. So I'm doing that. Also, you can sprinkle it directly onto the chicken to get rid of mites. Additionally, some people put it in their feed as a wormer. So
and they're doing the dust baths, which
and they're also doing dust baths, which is, but apparently the thing with dust baths is dust baths will keep on top of it if they haven't really got a mite problem. But if they develop a problem, then it might not be enough to get rid of it. So I don't know, but use with caution would be my advice on that. Do your own research if you feel comfortable using it. And then on the topic of, similar to the diatomaceous earth, I also purchased some here we go. This is just a disinfectant called, what the hell is it called? Stanosan or something weird like that. Stalosan. My mum looked it up and told me this is what I needed, so I bought it because I do what I'm told. She's probably laughing if she's watching that. Anyway, so yeah, that's a disinfectant powder, and that's what I've used when I've deep cleaned the coop. Again, you're probably not meant to breathe it in, sorry everybody. But right, final things for supplies to talk about. I initially put them into this is barley straw, which I had left over from making a scarecrow and storing potatoes. And I was told that you have to be wary of straw because apparently it's worse in terms of mites living in it. But I was also told by a friend's dad who keeps chickens that you really probably wouldn't have much problem with that in winter or autumn, as long as you watch, keep an eye on how they're doing. So I used that to start with just to see what it would be like. And actually, I thought it was fine. I thought it was quite easy to handle. It sort of mats together because it's not chopped. And I personally found that easier to clean out. However, most people apparently prefer this stuff. This is actually for horses, really.
1 minute.
Okay. And it's chopped. And I think this is hemp. Chopped something or other. Hemp. Let's just say it's hemp. And it's meant to be easier to clean because it moves around and doesn't mat together. But personally, I found that much harder to deal with because the poo just goes right through it, whereas the poo stayed on the top of the straw. So personally, I'm going to go back to straw unless I have a problem with mites. But you know, this is stuff. Oh god, that some people like OBOs, and it's for horses. But you can get like the horse stuff is cheaper than the chicken stuff, so that's why I got that. Thank you. Right. Okay. What else was I going to talk about? Okay, that's the supplies. I think basically, I think I've covered most of them. I was going to talk about. Have I got a minute to talk about the routine?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, right, I'll do a quick routine chat. Okay, I come out in my pajamas and let them out. Oh, I should have told you that. So this door closes. So at night, I close them into the coop and then I let them out. So in the morning, I just literally open this out. The coop, the run is closed, but I let them out of the house into the run. Their feed is already in there. Their water is there. So they come out, they come charging out, complaining that they have been incarcerated overnight and eat their breakfast. And then maybe after like an hour,
There's a wee mouse.
is there? Oh my goodness, there is.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh.
So should I just quickly tell them the routine?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So basically, yeah, I let them out into the run. They have their breakfast, and then an hour or so later, I let them out in the garden. They then peck around. If I'm home for the day, they can stay out all day. If I'm going out in the morning or the early part of the afternoon, at the moment, I'm just keeping them in the run because I haven't got the electric fences, but obviously I'll plan to change that. And then at night, I scatter corn in the coop, round them up, which is quite entertaining, I'm sure, for the neighbours. And then let them eat their corn. And then when it gets dark, they put themselves to bed. They just go back up into the hen house themselves. Because they know, you know, to hide away from predators, I guess, at night. And then I come out, make sure they're all in, make sure they're okay, and close the door. And once a week, I have been doing
I know.
Yeah.
It ran out of its hole.
The other thing I've been doing every morning is picking out the poo from the house every single morning, just to make sure it doesn't build up. And they seem to lay their eggs after breakfast. So what seems to happen is they come out in the morning, eat their breakfast. I clean out the coop before they go back in. And then once the coop's clean, they go back in and lay their eggs. So I think that they're more encouraged to lay their eggs if it's clean as well, I think. That's the impression I'm getting.
Sounds like they've settled in really well.
They seem to have, as far as I can tell, but they need to sort of sort out their pecking order a bit because the least dominant one is getting bullied by the middle ones. It's horrible. It's like school politics. Got really upset about it. Like the dominant one, she has decided she's in charge, definitely, but I've never seen her being nasty to the others. But the middle two, presumably because they want to assert that they are not the lowest, are being absolutely horrible at times to the lowest one. And it's just like schoolgirls. It's horrible. Really angry. Yeah.
Abby says it's fine to go over time. Can you have, there's one quick question. Are they difficult to catch?
Yes. So far. I think that when hens are fully used to you and if they've been handled from young, I believe that they can even enjoy being. Someone that I was talking to the other day told me that she used to look after some chickens at a nursery that she worked at, and she used to like rock them to sleep in her arms. But there's no way you could do that with these ones because they're like, I can go up to them, but they'll run away if I go too close. Of course, this will be the moment when they don't. Okay, they're getting more used to me, but they don't want to be picked up. So yeah, catching them is a bit of a challenge. Having said that, they've definitely got into a routine of knowing that when I come out and give them their corn on an evening, they go into the coop. So it's got easier. So I would imagine it would continue to get easier.
That's good. And what about winter? Do they need extra protection?
I'm going to try and get some insulating fabric to put around this. I've heard some people put old carpets around the top of the house, but hopefully if they've all got their feathers by then, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I mean, you know, chickens live in like Siberia and stuff, and we're not that cold. So, but yeah, I'll get some extra insulation if it feels
cuddle
necessary.
up together, will they?
Oh yeah, they all, yeah, they seem to sleep. in the nest box, which I guess is warmer, although not where they're meant to sleep. But, yeah, that is the time.
Awesome.
So
We
but
better.
I'm not going to attempt to answer all the questions now, but I will look at them after and like
Hey, Mum.
type some proper answers.
If we can see them, I hope we can see
Hopefully
the
we can see them
questions.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you find that your question is not answered, email Propagate, which is hello@propagate.org.uk.
Thanks for watching Hen-Cam.
Bye. Is it finished?